I grew up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, the product of a parental kidnapping taken over 2,000 miles away from my mother and 6 siblings living in Arizona. Because of this, I became a lonely child. I had to keep the secret, and by doing so, I ended up spending a lot of time by myself. So, for a nerdy kid like me, my escape was watching WDCA Channel 20 out of Washington, D.C. It was the one channel that seemed to have programming made for kids like me. So, as an 8-year-old child, I'd lose myself Monday through Friday watching Captain 20, a man who wore Vulcan ears, wore a vest, and was in a spaceship every day before and after school. On the show, he would be interacting with kids just like me, and he'd do this in between each cartoon or occasional commercial breaks. But the night that I was always looking forward to as a kid was Saturday night, where at 11 p.m. I'd be hiding in my room with my portable 5-inch Hitachi black and white TV, and I was tuning into a little show called Creature Feature with horror host Count Gore. This was a show that would consume much of my childhood, and it even did so into my adulthood. I thought myself so clever as a kid because I figured out that Captain 20 and Count Gore were the same man, and I'd learn his name was Dick Dyszel. Sitting down and talking with Mr. Dyszel last year was a highlight of my life. But then we suffered that fire, which destroyed my studio and destroyed a lot of my property. And in fact, I feared that I'd lost this interview. However, I'm delighted to say that the interview survived, and I am so happy that I can bring it to you today. I hope that you enjoy it, because I sure know I did. And now, our interview with Dick Dyszel.
You know what happens when the vampire starts writing poetry? Things go from that to verse.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Minefield. That's Keith over there.
And that's Gary.
And down below in the Brady Bunch box is it says Count Gore, and even though he is, that is Dick Dyszel. I don't know how to describe you, but I like the modern word of influencer because I idolized you as a kid, and I know a lot of my friends on my Facebook page that grew up in Virginia. We all talk about you all the time. Growing up on channel, Captain 20 and Count Gore, who was our creature feature host on Saturday nights. Yep. And my dad would let me stay up late and watch, and I love that. I think one of my favorite, I talked to you about that before, was when you had the R2D2 guy on there that sadly you told me he passed away young.
Well, yeah. Tim Davis is an incredibly talented person, but he had a whole lot of health issues, and frankly, we're all very pleased, and I'm sure he was, that he lasted as long as he did, because he battled all his life to stay alive, and he made a lot of it. So that was good. I'm glad I got to know him, and I actually was able to hire him a couple of times and actually help his business.
Yeah, you were saying something about the Planet of the Apes week.
Yeah, well, he started a makeup effects company in Washington D.C. Hammond Davis made makeup effects, and he is very much into appliances for gluing onto your face, and I know he had done the apes makeups and had costumes. So when I was working at Channel 45 up the road in Baltimore, after I left 20 for a short period of time. Um, I was a promotion producer, and we were doing a Planet of the Apes weeks. And so I hired him to take our staff announcer and turn him into an ape, and it was some fun spots.
Oh man, I bet. I love that stuff.
Actually, before I left 20 did this thing like that. Now, I didn't hire him. I got him hired, and I was made up as an ape. And we did a series of spots. And that was fun. That was just fun.
Oh,
And that was in the late 80s, right?
That would have been 1986.
Yeah, that was right about the point where I stopped watching much television because I was doing so much artwork. God, you were it had such an impact on me with Count Gore Duvall. I mean, don't get me wrong. You had an impact as Captain 22 with the whole, the Spock thing. And I love that. We were having a discussion the other day, whether you did that in the mornings too. Because I remember it in the afternoons, but I'm like, I can't remember if it was also in the mornings.
It depends on the era. Captain 20 was basically a promotional character from the get-go. I was the third one. Tony Alexi and Johnny K, and I don't remember Johnny's.
I don't remember either of those. I don't remember you.
Yeah, well, they were on about, each of them lasted about 18 months, and and I came on, and frankly, I didn't want to do the character. I mean, I was hired at 20 to do Bozo. I mean, that was it. I was.
Oh, I remember that too in your history. Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing Bozo. I enjoyed producing the program, and I was hired because the show that they had was failing badly, and I had left the station I had worked for in Kentucky, and I was burned out. I was working 100-hour weeks, and I said, I'm dying here. So I took a month or so off, and then got the job in Washington. And then after we got the Bozo show working, they said, oh, by the way, you're a staff performer. That means we can have you do anything we want without paying you anymore. So we're going to have you do this character, Captain 20. And Captain 20 was a drop-in. All he did was promote between shows. Hi, kids, this is Captain 20, and next we're going to watch Ultraman, and after that we're going to watch Marine Boy, and before that we're going to watch whatever. So, and then we ran contests. The first two Captain 20s ran gerbil races. We had monkey races, and finally we ended up with the club card, which
I got. I had a club card.
That was the most successful promotion, and that was cool too, because the first prize was Christmas in Disney World for you and your family, and I got to go. One of the few perks. I actually got to go twice. I got to go once to actually film the promotions, and Disney paid for that. They had a film crew out there. We spent 2 days at the park, walking around, filming the spots, the promos, and these are long days. I mean, we'd get there first thing in the morning. The whole thing was they were just opening up Space Mountain. And I was a space character.
There you go.
So this is cool. So I'm there.
Yeah.
Now here, let's talk about this. Is kind of a funny story. We get there, and this is the first time they've ever had relationships with a local station. So they didn't know what to expect. Who is this guy? And I show up with this fuchsia suit and purple hair and pointed ears, and the film crew didn't know what to make of this. But we didn't even get into the park. We were standing in front of the park where they've got that big floral mural of Mickey Mouse right in front. And I'm standing there, and a busload of kids from Washington pulls up, and they come running out, Captain 20! And it was like they had this mob scene, and suddenly the film crew was going, oh, even here in Florida. It was wonderful. we got off. We were on that paddle boat that's around the middle of the park. We got off of that. There was a little Dixieland band. As soon as I got off, they hit the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey as I walk off. It was great, but funny story. This is back when they didn't have all-day passes. You had A coupons, B coupons, C coupons, D coupons, and E coupons. E coupons were the most valuable, and they cost more. And you bought packages of coupons. So we had just gone through about 10 hours of filming, and we were just sitting in front of Cinderella's castle. It's kind of off to the side. And everyone is just exhausted. We're trying to figure out if we're going to do any more. We're going to go back to the hotel and get something to eat. And I see this group of people with this young lady in a equestrian outfit, riding outfit. She's leading these folks over, and she's obviously giving them indoctrination. It turns out they're newbies. They're just hired. And this is part of the indoctrination. It will explore the park. And I'm looking over there, and I had this horrible, I was kind of playful. I kind of snuck away from my guards, and we had chaperones. You know, you don't go around. They were too tired. They didn't notice. I walked around, and I climb up on the wall next to her. She's standing on this wall, and she's talking and she doesn't know me from Adam, but she's playing it cool. I'm standing right next to her. I'm 6'2". She's, 5 foot tall. She's looking at what's this, and I just pointed over to Space Mountain. And so I said I said, "Hey, welcome to Disney World. Isn't this great? Space Mountain's just about to open up. This is going to be fabulous. Oh, and by the way, I'm Captain 20. I want to let you know, did she tell you about the retirement plan?" And she looks at me, "What?" I can see my handlers deciding whether they're going to get up and try to tackle me. But I said, "Well, it's real simple. This is a great company to work for. If you work for 25 years, you get, as a part of your retirement, unlimited e-coupons for the rest of your life. 20 years, you get unlimited D coupons, 15 C coupons, 10 B coupons. What else could you ask for? Thanks a lot. Have a good trip." I walked off, and I see the handlers over there going, "Oh, no."
I'm looking at a photo right now that I want to share real quick, because this is somebody that before he passed away, and I regretted that his son had taken his website down. And I need to share the screen. Share the screen, Gary. Okay, I will.
Well, let me ask.
Forrest J. Ackerman.
Oh, yeah.
Because like the year before he died, he got one of my paintings. And he posted this special thank you to Robert Englund and Gary Cassell on his website. And I was like, that was like one of my happiest moments. I've worked on movies with Tom Hanks and stuff like that. That was my happiest moment, was being mentioned by Forrest J. Ackerman. And I loved it when you had him on the show.
Well, I'm going to disillusion a little thing here.
Uh-oh.
When Forey showed up at the studio, I had no idea who he was. I mean, seriously. I was familiar with Famous Monster magazine only from the cover. And I didn't know much about what was going on in the California scene. But Beverly Brandt, who is a friend of mine, said, "Hey, we've got Forey is in town. Would you like to have him on your show?" And I just happened to be recording that day. I said, "Sure, bring him on. Who is he?" She goes, "You don't know him?" So she's giving me this quick thumbnail of who Forrest J. Ackerman is. And I said, "Well, okay. I think I can wing this one." So he comes on the show, and he's got the first issue of Famous Monster to show, and this is really cool. and we start talking. And it didn't take me long to figure out that he had figured out that I had no idea what I was talking about and had who he was. But he played along. Forey is cool. I mean, he really was cool. And he kind of led the interview. And that's when I learned that to be a successful interviewer, you had to listen and deal with the person, not come up with a laundry list of questions that you had. Forget it. Talk about what he wants to talk about. Anyway, so we did 7 segments, and it all turned out wonderfully. But I felt so guilty. I mean, seriously. I mean, I should have been more prepared. I mean, I should have known who he was. I felt guilty that I didn't. So whenever I saw him at conventions afterwards, I kind of stayed away because I didn't want to, I just felt bad about the fact that I couldn't have done a better job with him. And I mean, we were cordial, but I just felt bad about the fact that I wasn't prepared. So that's
it happens. I mean, shoot. I think Keith and I wing it at least a quarter of the time because I'm because I don't think you watched our show. I'm known as the funny dick guy on the show. Yeah, and my name's Richard in the middle too. So I'm a legitimate dick too. And Keith, of course, is the human encyclopedia. He just knows just tons of cinema business information. He's that guy that if you open his closet, there's this big cork board with photos of people in yarn strung showing all how this is connected to that in the film industry. And he does amazing breakdowns. And then I just say funny, stupid shit. And, but growing up watching you, I always loved how you did the show. And I didn't know how much of it was improvised. I just loved the way that there was never like anything boring when you were in between, clips from the movie.
Trust me, there was a lot boring. I'm over here looking just past my computer. There's a folder, binder, 3-ring binder. It's about that thick, and it's all the formats for all the shows that we did from probably the late 70s on through 87. And
what was the first year? Because I think I started watching in 75.
February 3rd, 1973. Goes to Frankenstein.
Because my dad moved us to Virginia in 74. And I didn't get to Fredericksburg until, that's my stepdaughter back there. Sorry. She's brought our food for lunch this afternoon. Yes, yummy. But I was just noticing something because there's another guy from Virginia who I'm friends with, who also had a lot of the same stomping grounds and knew you. And I'm going to pull his picture up here. Steve Niles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In fact, my first gig for IDW Publishing, the comic publisher, was doing an animated trailer. I was their film and animation director at IDW. And I made an animated trailer for 2 of his comics. And we became friends and we found out, oh my God, we know all these same places and people. Really cool dude. And then I love this one. There you are, Captain 20.
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember because you did not have a mustache when I first started watching you.
Mustache came about in 1979.
Yeah, because when I first started watching you, you looked like that in the painting. And then his mustache came and I'm like going, oh, that's it. Disco 1.
We had, was it 79 or 77? 77.
That sounds about right. I think I was about 13.
We had gone, I had 3 weeks of vacation a year, and I tended to take it all along. I was not one of these people who felt guilty about taking vacation. Au contraire, I was a vacation person. As a kid growing up, we would go on these extended driving vacations. We were at the opening of Disneyland. We drove from Chicago through Canada, down through Seattle, down through Utah, going around, went to Disney, then went down to Grand Canyon and back all in 3 weeks. It was wonderful.
Oh, I love stuff like that. I was the same way with my dad. We would go for extended vacations to Canada. My Europe trip was only supposed to be like 3 months. It ended up being almost a whole year. I went to school for part of the year in Ireland.
Ah, excellent. But anyway, going back to the mustache, we had gone to Japan for 3 weeks. Or actually, we'd gone up. Japan was the ended up goal. And while I was gone, I had a mustache before I did Bozo. When I was back as a hip rock and roll disc jockey back in Kentucky and right out of college, I had a handlebar mustache.
No.
Me and Salvador Dali, except I was not quite as crazy as he was.
Yeah.
But to do Bozo, you had to shave it because you couldn't put the makeup on with the mustache. So I went to Japan, came back, and I hadn't shaved the mustache off yet because we had the session. Next session wasn't for another week. And my program manager said, "Hey Dick, nice mustache. When are you going to shave it off?" I'm going, "Jim, I like it." He said, "Well, you can't do Bozo with a mustache." And I'm going, "You're right. Cancel Bozo." And he said, "What?" Serious. I said, "Here's the deal." And it was true. We were getting a lot of flack about violence in television and for kids television and not doing enough informational stuff. And I said, Bozo's a clown. We've worked as much educational information stuff as we can into that show. But we can't go any further. There's nowhere to go. It's a kid's game show. I said, tell you what, you cancel Bozo. Take the money you're giving to Larry Harmon, you give it to me, not as a salary, but as a budget. And we'll take Captain 20 and give him a show, and that's more informational and more educational. We'll only have one character instead of two, and I can keep my mustache.
Nah, did it work?
It took him about 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, I would trim it up and then cover it with latex and put the makeup on over the latex. And for 3 shows, we did 5 shows on a Saturday. For the first 3 shows, it held. But by the end of the 3rd show, it would break loose by the lips. And I ended up having to Hello, boys and girls, it's your pal Bozo. I can't.
Now, I have a question about Bozo. Did you take over like right after Willard did?
Oh, no. Willard did it a couple of years earlier on WRC.
We're talking about Willard Scott from NBC.
Yeah. You look at his pictures, and he was using the old Bozo costume. I guess Channel 20 bought it looking at Tony's costume. They probably started in 71, maybe 71, which is when I started doing it when I was at WDXR in Paducah. And now this was the opposite. I didn't want to do Captain 20. Tony loved Captain 20, but didn't want to do Bozo.
So it was a deal that he liked the idea of then when it came around.
Well, sort of. So anyway, but the general manager wanted to make Bozo a success, so he decided that they would hire a new Bozo. And since I had a track record, my show was very successful, and I really enjoyed doing it. So they said, Tony, bye, and I got the job.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
Keith, you got any questions, buddy?
Well, I mean, I wanted to know what was the strangest fan interaction or encounter you've ever had in your career.
Oh, I guarantee
you've inspired so many kids. You've entertained over the years. I mean, there's got to be at least one.
It's almost sad to say that I was so controlling of what I did as the characters that we always maintained such an even keel that let me just think about that as we go along here.
Well, what would be something like an incident where you actually got recognized when you were just out and about as yourself?
That happened occasionally, and you just handle that. Okay, thank you very much. You acknowledge it, and be cordial to the person that. Uh, Gore was probably Gore probably initiated more of fan interaction that could be kind of. I'll give you an example. We were doing a public appearance, personal appearance at a movie theater, someplace in Virginia, and the film had started. They didn't need me anymore, so I was kind of hanging out in the lobby. I was talking with probably the general manager, and we were chit chatting. And he said, "What are some of the advantages of being a vampire?" I said, "Well, the biggest advantage is you get to go bite women's necks," and it's true. He said, "Oh, come on." I said, "No, seriously." I said, "Seriously, I could go up to a couple and without any introduction, bite her neck, and with no repercussions." He goes, "I watch." So I go outside. I say, "Well, come on." And here's this couple walking down. This guy looks like he's a linebacker for a football team. Huge. Here's this little tiny girl next to him. And she recognized, they both recognized me, which is good because that saved my ass. And I just walk up to her and said, "Good evening. You have such a lovely neck. I want to buy it." And I get her on the neck. And he's over there laughing hysterically. And I thanked her. I thanked him. Walked back, and the general manager was just shaking his head. What a great job! Oh, how about this? Okay, yes. I forgot about this one. Back around 75, we were running a Gore's Valentine contest. You can win an evening with Gore. Go out on a date. Go out to a restaurant to have a Valentine's dinner. You get flowers and candy and go out. Okay, so we were set it up. My promotion manager, Dan O'Brien, set this up. We were going to go to at the time it was called the Statler Hilton Steakhouse. It was at the Hilton Hotel on K Street. And I don't know if it's still called what it was called, but we went there. And the restaurant did not have a restroom. You had to go into the hotel lobby restroom, which was just around the corner. So, okay. So we go in. No one told the hotel that I was coming. In costume.
Oh my God, and you're in full costume.
Full costume.
Oh God.
The general manager of the restaurant knew it, but we had to go through the lobby to get in there. So here's this vampire walking on through and just kind of ignoring it. When I do this, I walk with a purpose so no one questions it. So I've been walking with a purpose right into the restaurant. Well, we're sitting there and we're having dinner, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I said, "Waiter, where's the restroom?" He goes, "Well, just go out the door and over here." Okay, fine. So I excused myself and I got up, walked around, and went out of the lobby, went into the restroom. I'm in there in the restroom, and before I know it, there are 2 private police officers on either side of me, one on either side. And they're going, "And what are you doing in this hotel?" I said, "Right now I'm taking a pee." They said, "Stop being funny." And I said, "Well, no, that's not really being funny." Answering your question.
I'm being literal.
Literal, yes. And he says, "All right, you're obviously here to cause trouble." I mean, this is, and I said, "No, look, I'm here having dinner. This is part of a promotional contest. I work for Channel 20. I'm having dinner. My promotion manager is in the restaurant. You may go ask him." And so one guy said, "What does he look like?" I described him. One guy said, "You stay here." The other guy went. And my promotion manager came in and vouched for me that I was not some kind of pervert. So that was the strangest interaction.
Good grief.
Oh man.
One of the things, because years later when I was at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana,
Oh, no, well,
we were lacking a horror host. And Jason Pankoke, who's published quite a few magazines, and we worked together for one of the magazines in Illinois, And he was somebody after my own heart. I fell in love with him as a bro, and we hung out together all the time. He's a Godzilla fanatic. Nobody knows Godzilla like Jason Pankoki. And we got the idea of doing a horror host, and we got right down to it, and it just fizzled right at the end, and it really broke my heart because I was like, wouldn't it be great? Somebody that grew up on Count Gore Duvall actually goes off and does their own horror host thing. Everybody was all for it, but then it came down to the rights of the movies and the kinds of movies they could afford to put on. And once that happened, it just died.
Yeah.
The studio didn't want to pay for it, the local affiliate. And it was going to be called Renfield's Nightmare Palace. I was going to be the 7th generation Renfield. And I would just do impressions. That's all I would do.
Feeding flies and spiders.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Doing goofy stuff. I'd have a straitjacket on and would run the remote with my feet. And I was so young, and it was such a cool idea. Everybody was like, I'm in love with it. I even wrote a theme song because I'm a composer. And it just, right at the last minute, it just died. And I was like, whoa. But I know what inspired me to want to do that. And what was it who brought about Count Gore Duvall, and what made you want to do it?
Budweiser.
I'm a heavy drinker of Bud myself.
Well, I don't know if it's Bud, but this is the actual true story. I was working after college. My first real, I'd worked for a small station in Missouri, but that was only for 6 weeks. They fired me real quick because they knew I was too good for the station.
Where in Missouri? Because that's where we're at. I'm in Joplin, and Keith is in Springfield.
Well, this was DeSoto, Missouri. And the guy called me. I had just gotten my first class FCC license. I had already graduated college. I couldn't get a job without a license, so I got the license. And the guy calls me and says, well, we got it's a suburban St. Louis station. Oh, okay, suburban St. Louis. That's a big market, okay? And what's the format? Well, it's good music. He said, it's kind of contemporary. So I bit, and I drove down there. Well, 100 miles south of St. Louis, it's still not.
Yeah.
And then it's not really a cloverleaf turnoff. It's kind of a dirt road that kind of runs into. And I get off. I come to this one-lane bridge, and it's got a sign that's hanging, and it says DeSoto, Missouri. Swinging. What have I got into? Across this bridge. And I'm going down, the road widens a little bit, so now it's 2-lane. And I get into town, and up to my left, nothing but rusted old rail cars. Track after track after track after track. On the right side is Main Street town. Main Street runs along, and I'm looking, and there's steps walking up, walking down, crossing the street, walking. Basically, it's an old Western town. They just paved over, and all of this raised sidewalks because that's where some of the hitching posts were still there.
Right.
So then there's the hotel. It's over there across the tracks, and I'm looking at it, and there's some old guys there whittling away on the porch. I'm going, okay, that's where I got to go stay the first night. Okay, so it's already late. It's like 10 o'clock. I go in. There's this small little lobby, and there's this guy behind a small table, and behind him is all the boxes with all the keys. Okay, I said, well, I need a room. He goes, oh, okay, fine. So it'll be like $8 or whatever it is. And I said, okay, I can do that. And he reaches over, here's your key. And he said, it's just over there, up the stairs. And okay, so I go into the room. It's a nice room. It's 2-story. It's a very tall, ceilinged room. It's old. It looks like something out of a Western. It really does. So I wash up, go to bed, turn the lights off. And I heard a noise or something, and I decided to get up. And I turned the lights on. The walls are covered with cockroaches scrambling to get out of the way. because the light went out.
Oh, God.
Oh, dang. Yeah. Guess who slept with the light on? Guess who did not stay a second night? I went to the station. I met the general manager, and I said, "I need a place to stay tonight." He said, "What about the hotel?" I related the experience. He goes, "Let me call Miss Gibbons." You call Miss Gibbons. Who's Miss Gibbons? She's got she has a place. She has a room to rent. She'll rent it to you. She's a friend of mine. Well, Miss Gibbons had a room to rent, and I got this lovely little room. She was a nice lady. She liked to listen to the radio. Of course, I'm finding out now as well, it's not a suburban St. Louis station. The signal comes nowhere near St. Louis. It's a small daytimer. It only runs during the day. It's country. I don't like country music. He would let me sneak in some contemporary country. I could play Elvis. I could play Kenny Rogers. But other than that was it. And it was a high school football sports fanatic town, because that's all they cared about was Friday night football, And so it was like, I was there for 6 weeks. But it was great from the standpoint, since it was a daytimer. At night, I had the key to the station. At night, I got to go in, and they had a Pepper Tanner, a music production package, which had music beds, introduction themes, blah, 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 blah. And I could create show opens, show closes. I could write and do local commercials and produce them. I learned a ton. In the 6 weeks I was there, I learned a ton about, I knew how to do it, but enhancing my abilities to be a producer of audio. And it was really good. But the 6 weeks came about, and he says, well, we're going to go short hours. The sun's setting. So it's either you or George. And I said, well, he says, you're going to leave your first opportunity. George doesn't have enough talents to go anywhere else. We're keeping him. So he said, I'll give you a great recommendation. And at the same time, a friend of mine who was working in Paducah said the rock station in town, 50,000 watt rocker, needs a jock. I sent out a demo and called them every day until I harassed them into giving me the job. I became a rock and roll jock. Yeah.
Cool.
How long did that last?
All right. That gets me to WDXR radio.
Right.
I get there and find out that they've got a construction permit for the first UHF TV station in Western Kentucky. And that means everyone at the radio station is going to work at the TV station. Suddenly, I'm now into the base floor of TV. This is cool, okay? Because I always wanted to be a TV director. So the new facility is built. It's state of the art for the time, and it was beautiful. Just a beautiful building. It still is a beautiful building. It's not a radio station or a TV station anymore, but it's still a beautiful building. And one night, we're sitting there. We're about 6 weeks out from the opening of the station going on the air, and I'm sitting there with Louis Warford, who's our general manager, who's also about like 24 years old. I mean, but he's a show producer and a promoter, and good friends with the general manager, sharp guy. And he says, hey, Dick, why don't you join Ernie and me, and we'll get some pizza and some beer. We're going to watch these film opens. So they have a 16 millimeter projector, and they get these reels of film. These are like the 8 o'clock movie, the Saturday afternoon special, all these themed opens. And they're going to buy a package of these, and he wanted opinions. So we're there about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm, throwing down these beers and eating this pizza. And up comes on the screen, Night of Terror with M.T. Graves. And I just, that's what we need. We need a hosted horror movie with a local host. And Louis turned around and he said, you're hired.
You're hired.
What do you mean? I said, I want to be a director. He goes, no, you just said what we need. He said, I've seen you with my girlfriend made me a cape. This is the early 70s, even for Paducah, that was really outlandish. I had a cape. And I did have a tuxedo left over from high school proms. And I could roll my R's. So they said, okay, create a character. And I just ripped off MT Graves, who was this was an actual host from Miami. I didn't know that. And so we did hosted horror movies in Paducah. And when I got to Washington, they hired me as Bozo. Then they wanted me to do Captain 20. And I wanted to do a vampire. And they said, no, we don't want it. Turns out that they had a host of 20, which, by the way, I didn't find out about until 5 years ago. Everyone kept it quiet. It was a great zucchini.
I don't remember that at all.
This would have been in the late 60s.
Oh, okay, that's why.
The station had just gone on the air, and they were showing Mexican fights and stuff like this, and they had this horror host. And so they said it wasn't a success, and Sir Graves Ghastly had been on Channel 9, and he wasn't a success, so we're not going to do it. So I harangued my program director. Finally, he said, do a pilot. We did a pilot. Finally came down to the general manager, said, okay, we'll do it, but we need a better name than MT Graves. And I said, well, I was very frustrated. There was an afternoon of frustration. I'm in this, he has a small office. And I literally was like between his desk and the back wall was no more than 4 feet. And I'm there going, Milt, what do you want? He said, well, something with some gore in it. I said, well, that's easy. Count Gore. How's that? I like it. But we need something more. And I'm this close to getting what I want. And I don't know what to do. And I throw my hands up in the air. I turn around and I said, how about something off the wall? Because the wall's right behind me. He said, what do you mean? It's count off the wall. How about count Gore Duvall? And he goes, I like it.
I like it.
What was the inspiration? And I don't know. I honestly don't, because here's two things that are happening simultaneously. One, I exactly what I said. I said something off the wall. So immediately Duvall came to mind. On his desk was a book
by Gore Vidal.
Or by Gore Vidal, who I knew as an author, but I've never read anything of his work. And every day I drove to and from work passing the Duvall funeral home.
Oh.
So what's the inspiration?
Yeah, because I argued as a kid that it was from Gore Vidal. Yeah, I was one of those 4th and 5th graders that knew who he was.
And so Mr. Vidal, and he did not take it kindly. I mean, there's nothing he could do about it, but I was friends with a lot of the news people, and we got into the party circuit a little bit because I was the on-air talent. And I never met Mr. Vidal, but I was told point blank that he did not think it was funny. And I said, well, tell him it wasn't him. It was the Duvall funeral home. Then he'll be upset that I didn't steal it from him. So I don't know. It's like, take your pick.
In the immortal words of William F. Buckley, fuck him.
Well, you can say that, but I would never say that.
I'm known for saying that.
Say that.
Even though we have talked about G'ing the show up a little bit, but I don't want kids watching the show because it impacts our potential monetization when we eventually do that as we grow. Because we're getting bigger. We've grown grassroots, and we're the top show here in Missouri for doing what we do, and we're proud of that. And we've done it all just two guys, one black, one white, just having fun.
Hey, is that permitted to have fun? No.
Well, I mean, this is how we met. We met because I'm a comic artist, and I was a guest at the convention he worked at, and he walked up, and I cracked this joke all the time. It's not true, but I said, I'm in dire need of a black friend. I think he'll do it. But the fact is I fell in man love with him. I'm like, dude, I like your brain. And I started doing panels all the time. And then one time he came in and we did a panel together at a Geekmas convention here in Springfield, and we took the floor, and nobody wanted us to yield the table. We just stayed there for a few hours. Everybody says, no, you keep going. And our panel was dumb. You do it. And we did it. And people suggested we should do a show.
Excellent.
And of course, I've been wanting to get you on here for a while because, you had, I don't know how often you get to hear it, but I really want you to know what an impact you made on me as a kid, because you made me want to work in film, and I work in film.
I hate to disillusion you, but I hear that a lot. No, I'm serious.
No, I'm glad, because you deserve it. You influenced a lot of kids, and I don't have a single friend from Fredericksburg who doesn't know who you are. And
you know what's good? What's funny? And when we were doing the show, let's face it, I've got 3 cameras, 3 cameramen, or camera persons, and a floor director. An audio person, a director, and an engineer. That's all my whole audience. I had no idea who was out there watching. I mean, sure, you look at the rating books and you see numbers, see demographics, but you didn't know who was watching. So, the best thing, I learned this from the guy who taught me to be Bozo, Doug Litt. He was running the Bozo Training Academy at the time. And he said, even when you're not on camera, you've got to reflect the character. And because even if someone just guesses that you are that person, you should not be misrepresenting the standards of that character.
yeah,
I took it very seriously. I mean, we have very few outtakes. No foul language was permitted in the show. Even in studio when we were doing the shows, even if there were no people there. Hello, what happened to Keith?
I don't know. He sometimes loses signal. He'll be back. But
so we took it very seriously. When we started getting flack, and I kept up to what the industry was doing, so I was well aware of the way the industry was going, and I kept pushing the station to let me go that way. And it turned out, when the station was finally sold in '79, that because of that, they were able to actually sell the station, because the FCC had put a hold on the license. And then finally the new owner's staff came in, and they had this whole laundry list of things that they would do. They just looked at me and said, "You're going to be the one to do it." So I said, "Okay." So that's cool.
I think that's fantastic. And I love that you have continued this character, that you still do. You have your ear echo, Keith. I'm getting echo. There we go.
How's that?
Let me see. I'll edit this out, Dick.
Let me tell you about why I was able to do that and why I did. One, I love the character. But 2, immediately upon leaving the general manager's office with Count Gore Devon, I went downstairs on my typewriter, wrote out a letter that indicated that I owned the rights to the character,
Good.
the intellectual property rights for the things that I produced, and had the station sign off on it.
Before you left the apps, there you go.
That's when before I even started, and then trademarked it. And then so when I left '87, not only did I own the characters, but since I own the property, the physical I own the intellectual property, the new owners, since they didn't want anything to do with it, they just handed me literally a van full of videotape and said, "Here's your videotape."
And that's on the 1-inch videos, right?
That was 1-inch videotape.
Oh yeah.
And I ended up having it transferred to 3/4 inch. So because I could edit 3/4 inch at home, because I had a 3/4 inch editor. And then later on, the fine folks in Culpeper, Virginia, at the where they have the National Archive stuff, they transferred all that 3/4 inch, and I am in the National Archive as a representative of local Washington production.
And when they transfer it, did they transfer it to HD at that point, or?
Well, no, they just cleaned it up as best they could. It was still SD, but it was transferred to a
The highest quality, right? Okay.
I got both a hard drive of Epic 2, Epic 4, and also I had them transfer the stuff onto mini DVs, tapes, because at the time I was also using those. So that was my deal. Here's all the stuff. It's all yours. This is what I want back. And they said, okay.
I would love to get 2 episodes from you. And number one, the R2D2 one, because that was absolutely, I dreamt of making that R2D2 myself. And the other one was, and I'm trying to remember, I'm almost positive you showed this movie, was the Train of Terror, whatever it was, with Telly Savalas, Peter Cushing, and
Express.
Yeah, that was it. And I loved that episode. For some reason, it just really stuck with me.
Let me do something here, because hidden on the website is a listing of all the movies we showed on Channel 20. And I'm trying.
Oh, you have them all on there. I've gone through your website, and I need to go and look at every single one of those.
It's not linked. You'd have to go to archive.htm.
Okay.
But I don't think we showed Horror Express.
Then I think maybe it is the other horror host I grew up on in Illinois. That was actually from Ohio. And I can't remember that guy's name.
Oh, there was a ton of them. Ohio was the Ohio had more horror hosts per capita than any other state.
Yeah, it's like because I was in Charleston, Illinois, but we watched a lot of Ohio stations because we were so close to the border. But Phoenix had one too, and I don't really remember him at all. I just remember getting the shit scared out of me watching Doctor Who, the movie with Peter Cushing.
I don't see Horror Express. I know we've showed Horror Express. As a matter of fact, I have copies on the website for sale of Horror Express, but no, I don't.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link down below our video here, and I will share this on your Friends of Captain 20 website. Also, do you have a not website, Facebook page? You have a Facebook page for Count Gore Duvall too, right? Yeah, because I'm a member of all of them. I will make sure to share it there. Keith's just laughing at me because I'm such a nerd. Usually he's the one who geeks out when we have a guest on, and I'm the one geeking out because I grew up watching, your show.
Well, you know what's so funny is the fact that for years I've had Captain20.com, and very few people know about it. They search for Captain 20 and they somehow miss the website, and it gives the entire history, photos of all the captains, how the captains evolved into various things. We have sample shows, we have sample spots. I'll
put a link to that down below too.
I'm you said the R2D2. I never had the R2D2 on. It was on Captain 20.
No, not Captain 20. It was Count Gore Duvall. You had the young gentleman on there, and I lost my mind watching that episode. Just was like, you can do that? Oh my God, I want to do that.
that would have been in the 70s. And
it was 78 or 79.
We probably don't have that one because I didn't start insisting that we keep
a copy.
At that point, we were still using, in the late 70s, we were using 2-inch tape, but it wasn't 2-inch quad, it was 2-inch helical, which no one in the world could play. But it was a great format, but very limited. And the tape, again, 2-inch tape was too expensive. No one, the general manager is not going to hand me a $300 reel of tape and say, "Oh, here, go play with it." No. So I do have a promotion spot someplace of Captain 20 and R2D2. We did a bunch of spots. And, Tim had the R2D2 on with that. We had Tim on a couple times with other things that he had done. He had done some appliances and some monster characters for some films that he demonstrated.
Yeah, I remember watching a movie with you, and I'm not sure. I think you may have even shown it on Creature Feature. It was a sci-fi movie you were in.
Oh yeah, Alien Factor.
Yeah, Alien Factor. Let's see. I think I got it right here. Hold on. Yeah, there it is.
In 3 of Don Dohler movies. The first one was Alien Factor, and that was a funny story because I'm a big fan of film. I particularly like. Yeah, there we go. I particularly like young filmmakers and their ideas. I like people with energy and creativity, and I was in a position that I could help them a little bit. So when people came to me and said, "Hey, Count, we have this film," I said, "Well, is it 16 millimeter? We can't do 8 or Super 8." He said, "Yeah, 16 millimeter. Well, come on, I'll put you on the show. We'll talk about your film and promote it." Okay. So we had this group from Baltimore come down. They said, "Well, we're making this movie called The Alien Factor." They come down, and I think there was 4 of them on this show. We talked about it, and they talked about
I remember this episode.
And so I'm sitting there thinking, why am I promoting this? Why am I not in this? So it's all over. And I just stopped. I said, look, this is probably not politically correct, but I do have one question. Well, what's that? Why didn't you ask me to be in the film? You're perfectly willing to come on the show and have me promote it. But you ever think about, it would be nice to have, the guy behind the count in the film? And they kind of all looked at each other, and finally,
you would do that?
I said, "Well, we didn't think you'd be interested." Smack! I'm interested. What are you going to do about it?
I love that, though. I mean, that was what was great about you, was how you did that. And because that's where you made some of the greatest impacts on guys like Craig Edwards and me. Because Craig went on to work on a lot of TV. His first gig was working on Pee Wee Herman's TV show, creating miniatures. And my first gig was just working for magazines, doing artwork. But I wanted to be this filmmaker, and then I started making film, and I realized I hate actors. And
and now you're talking to me? Does that mean I'm not an actor? I'm leaving.
Well, what's funny is like I'm friends with a lot of film and TV actors, but I'll say that, and it's like, and they'll go, I think I get where you're coming from, because I met some really annoying people. And in fact, one of the worst people I worked with was an editor, and I learned to edit just simply so I couldn't work with this guy anymore. I hated him. He was at college, great student, and he had great films. But when I ran into him, it was like he always smelled, and he was a junkie. He was always like doing drugs, and I'm like, I don't want that in my life. I'm a very clean cut person. I've got a mouth on me from the Army, but dude, I don't do drugs. I'm very clean cut, and I don't want it around me, and or my kids, because I have 3 kids, and all of them adults now. But I didn't want to be the person that taught them how to do those things. So I wanted to lead it's like you said, when you are off the camera, you remain being the character, because you represent that character. And so I was always dad. That's why I loved for years being called Zoe's dad, my daughter, who's close friends with Keith. And she's a big fan of horror too. And I've shown her Gore so she could see what I grew up on.
You've struck upon something that really inspired me to create the web program back in '98.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was living in the Chicago suburbs, again doing rock and roll, or doing the DJ company, and I kept hearing from my friends in the Washington area that there was a jock, a DJ on one of the morning talk shows, who was constantly bringing up Captain 20 in a non-favorable light.
Was it Greaseman?
Pardon?
Greaseman?
No, it wasn't Doug. No. Um, because Doug and I have a mutual friend, and he would not have tolerated that.
Okay.
No, and actually, there was some guy who would come on the show and claim that he was Captain 20, and it was really tarnishing the image, and they hadn't gotten to Gore yet. But I turned to my wife and said, I don't like this. I spent a lot of years building up a really nice, wholesome reputation, and we have some clown, and I don't like using that word because the book's he's an idiot out there who's taking it down, and I'm not there to defend myself. So she said, "What are you gonna do about it?" And I said, "Well, I'm not moving back to Washington right now, anyway." So I said, "Well, what if we went on the internet and started reinforcing it? What if I create my own legacy on the internet?"
There you go.
And so we batted it around for a while, and we finally said, "Okay, let's do that." And it started as the Count, and then through various mutual friends, we let this particular disc jockey know how really unhappy I was with it, and how and they ended up rolling it back considerably. I mean, they would still bring up the name, but it was always, So, but that was one of the inspirations, because you build up a legacy. And matter of fact, our first videos were the legacy videos. This is the stuff we did. We were proud of it. I was even proud of Alien Factor.
Actually, I'll probably show it to Keith, because I don't think you've seen that one. I will show it to you. But I really enjoyed all those years, and I didn't think that I could find joy when I was living in Virginia. And my fondest memories of growing up there were watching Channel 20. It's like after school, man, my books were out of my hand. I was running to the kitchen, because that's where the TV was. It was in the kitchen, and we'd be watching Captain 20. And then late at night, my dad would fall asleep, and I'd be sitting in the kitchen again with my headset on, watching Creature Feature. And
you brought up Steve Niles before, and I have to tell you,
yeah, good guy, really nice guy.
We had just started the web program back in '98, and I was contacted by IDW, and they said, "Would you be interested in doing the forward to a book by Steve Niles? He's a big fan."
30 Days of Night. No.
Arcane.
Oh.
So I said, "Send me the book." I'm not going to, do a forward to something I'm not familiar with. So they sent it to me, and I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So I wrote a nice forward to him, and Steve and I ended up connecting, and we see each other at conventions every once in a while. And this is kind of cool. I had him on the show a couple of times, and that's when we were we had moved back to Virginia. So he was out there, and it's been really cool to connect by way of the content.
Yeah, whenever he and I talk, that's really all we talk about. Going to the mall, the Springfield Mall up there in Alexandria, going to movies, the record shop. What was your favorite band? Because we were both kind of new wave punk. He was more punk. I was kind of new wave punk, and just love that area. It was, God, I tell people, there's just something amazing about that Northern Virginia area. It just was awesome. And our connection directly with Washington, D.C.
Well, see, since I lived in Gaithersburg, Maryland, I was a kind of Marylander, but I always felt, people say, "Where are you from?" I'm from the Washington metro area.
Mm-hmm.
Washington is such a metropolitan area. I mean, you just can't limit it to just the city limits. Even Channel 20 wasn't in Washington. It was a mile outside of Washington on River Road. Woodson Avenue was the border. We were on, so.
And that was one of my fantasies, was finally one day going there, and I'd fantasize being on your show. I'm going to be on there one day. You watch. Nah, it never happened.
June 10th, 1972, I drove into Washington looking for Channel 20. They said it's on River Road, 5202 River Road. I know where River Road is. It's right off the Beltway. Get off the Beltway. I'm going down River Road. We're watching the numbers. And we're watching the numbers, and suddenly there's no 5202. So we turn around. We do it again. There's a junior hot shop. There's railroad tracks, security storage. It's supposed to be in there someplace. But there is kind of a road next to the railroad tracks that kind of is an extension off the parking lot of the junior hot shop. Drive down that, and there is this cinder block, ugly looking warehouse type building. And we drive road, and there is 5202, and there is a little thing on the door, WDCA.
20 written in crayon.
Said, you know, maybe this wasn't such a smart idea. We park the car. I walk in. There is this shabby lobby. There's gaffer's duct tape holding the carpet together in spots. Same with the wallpaper. The receptionist is sitting there with a switchboard like it belongs in the Smithsonian. She's over there. Yes, hello? Yes, I will connect you. Yes.
Oh my God.
We just left this state-of-the-art little station in Paducah, Kentucky, the 77th market. I'm now in the 8th market, and I'm looking at something out of Andy Griffin. You know, it's I was really dismayed. But I hung in there.
Anyway, I think it was well worth it.
We had such really good, again, a lot of us were about the same age. We were young, energetic, some very creative, some hyper creative, some stupid, but stupid creative. But that's all. We all worked together. And once we got over some of the politics, because there was some people. There was one guy who had really wanted to do the bozo thing. He was on the crew, and I ended up being in his wedding party. We ended up becoming very good friends. So he's down here in Florida now too. So we had a great time and a great crew. We all worked together. The station was small enough that we didn't have this compartmentalization. I didn't have any money as far as the budget goes. So, if I wanted to have fog on Creature Feature, I'd go into the business office and say, "Hey, Karen, can I have $5 out of petty cash?" "What for?" "I need some dry ice."
I need to make some fog.
"You need 5?" I go, "Yeah, I need 5." And that's the way it was. But you go into the art department, and the art department was always very busy creating all the promotion stuff. And I go, I got a session next week, and we're going to do this. And it really, you think you could? "Oh yeah, we'll get it for you, Dick. No problem." Everyone would work for each other, do each other's favors, and we all had a common goal: how to make this station look on the air as best as possible. And it was a great atmosphere. Great atmosphere. Very,
Every bit of money into that. Yeah.
very few egos to deal with. It was good.
Well, you bring up art, and that brings us all the way back to that painting. And that is such a God. It's ingrained in our memory from childhood. And who painted that? And my God, what inspired you to want to have the painting?
Well, it says L. Stoffenherman on the front, and it's Lauren Stoffenherman. At the time, she was the official Maryland State portrait artist. She did all the portraits of the governors. And her daughter, who was in junior high school at the time, Eleanor, wanted to be on the show. And she would keep sending stuff in, little trinkets and stuff, and I would show them and all this, but she wanted to be on the show. So one day I'm sitting there at my desk, and I get this envelope and says, "Dear Count, my mother would be willing to paint a portrait of the Count. We need 2 things. We need a snapshot so that she has something to work from. And we need to have you allow me to come on and present it to you. Crank letter. But I didn't toss it. I opened my desk drawer and there was this little Kodak snapshot, kind of fuzzy, out of focus. Stuck it in the envelope and sent it back. I said, sure, and forgot about it. Never disappoint a fan. About 6 weeks later, I get another note. The portrait is ready. When can I bring it out?
Nice.
I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I expected something a little bit more than a stick figure. I mean, seriously. I try not to get my hopes up too high, that are not dashed so much. I'm kind of even keel kind of person. So so I'm in the day comes. It's a Saturday morning, and my director comes in. Stu comes into the bathroom where I put my makeup on, and says, "There is this really strikingly beautiful, sexy young blonde out there with an incredible portrait of you." And I go, "That's
Right.
what I expected." And I said, "Oh, by the way, her mother's with her." I go, "Well, that's good. Okay." So I meet Eleanor, and yes, she didn't look like a junior high school student. She was very mature for her age. Let's put it that way. And then I took one look at the portrait, and I go, "My God, that's an oil painting." And that's when I was told I met her mother, and her mother, blah blah blah. So we had her on the show, and we ad-libbed our way through the presentation of the portrait, and I have that clip. I have that clip that we did save that one, the presentation of the portrait, and Eleanor and I ended up being very good friends. We were both in Alien Factor together. We never had scenes together, but we were in the same movie. We were fellow actors in the sequel, Night Beast. She was my secretary, and she has played the Countess von Stauffenberger on Creature Feature numerous times. Yeah, Night Beast, and so Eleanor, and now she is a famous writer. Her book "Sex with Presidents" has just come out.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Her first one was "Sex with Kings," and it's a story of medieval kings and their romances. Then she did "Sex with Queens" and so forth and so on. She's basically a historian. She speaks like 6 languages. She goes to Europe, goes into these archives. I think she's done one about the popes and the 6 lives of the popes.
I had to read that one.
But Eleanor Herman has turned out to be really a good friend, a good writer, quite an interesting person. So that her mother did that portrait. It all came about because she wanted to be on my show.
That's so awesome, though. I think everybody wanted to be on the show. I mean, that was a big show in Virginia and Maryland and DC. It's like Count Gore Duvall.
Well, we did have a lot of guests on, because here's the thing, and the talent of that station was the only union shop. We were a union shop for talent, but everyone else was not union. But because we were a union shop, we would have to pay guests. If I had you come on, either of you come on and perform, I'd have to pay you scale. But there was a loophole. Non-performing guests, winners of contests, promotional things, they could come on and not have to be paid. So we ran a lot of contests where the prize was, come on the show.
Like that.
And Eleanor, she was presenting me with something, so this was not a performance. So yeah, we ended up with some interesting characters. We had a roller derby queen on the show once, who literally flattened me into a coffin with a jab. Wow, that was something. Yeah, we had some interesting people.
Man, and I got to tell you.
Oh, wait a second. You got to talk about interesting people. Everyone brings it up. I forgot all about it.
Oh, yes.
Pets. The Penthouse Pets. Penthouse Magazine would send around their pet of the year and their pet of the month to all the TV stations to promote the magazine. And none of the other stations would touch them. They had no place to put them. So they would, they'd come to us and say, what can you do with our sexy young ladies? And we said, oh, yeah. I've got a coffee they work with, And so we'd have, for about 3 or 4 years running, they would come on tour and they would come on the show, and we'd have them on the show. Some of them were very, very talented. Some of them went on to be actresses, and some of them went on to be business executives. Some of them not so much. Yeah, everyone was, all the other guys, Arch Campbell, who is the guy at Channel 4, the movie reviewer, he was always jealous. He says, dang, Dix gets all the hot, sexy women, and I get nothing.
Arch, because I mentioned to you off camera that Arch was the other person that impacted me very much. I've been a columnist writing reviews since 1995, and I always liked the way he did his reviews. But the thing that both of you did was you paid attention to homegrown filmmakers, and he even started Arch Campbell's Homegrown Film Festival.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's like I loved it. He would have local filmmakers show their stuff when he on NBC, and I'm like, oh my god. Craig and I would be like, we're gonna make our movies never got shown because they were crap. Weird kids. But that was our goal, was to be on your show or on Arch's.
Well, Arch and I started off. He was the first person to interview me as the Count, and as he tells the story. 1974, his editor, his boss, said, I love this guy on Saturday night. He's fantastic. Go over and talk to him.
That's cool.
Well, it tells you two things, though. One is the fact that they never considered us serious competition. So they didn't care if they were promoting another station.
Well, that's NBC. I mean.
Well, yeah, but. So Arch comes over and he brings his crew, and we were doing a session, and he came on and I locked him in my coffin, and we've been friends ever since. So
there you go. Yeah, because the only other really big thing was Panorama on Channel 5. I forget what network that was.
That was Metro Media. Well, then eventually you ended up with Channel 9. Had, what was that show? There was Henry, what's his name? PM Magazine was on. But it was interesting, though. I was so, as a performer, I was so tied to those station characters that one Halloween, People's Drug came in and they said, we're gonna. People's Drug did their commercials at Channel 20. During the weekdays, Channel 20 was the commercial production house.
Right.
In there, People's, I can't remember. A lot of the local but major stores had their spots done at 20. So the people said, we want the Count to do our spot. I said, okay, let's do this. And we did a dynamite spot. I unfortunately never got a copy of it, but it was a beautiful spot, and they were happy with it. I got paid scale. I mean, I was really happy. And a week later, I became very unhappy because Peoples was unhappy because they sent the spot out to 4, 5, 7, and 9, and they all said, we're not going to run it because this is the guy from Channel 20, and we're not going to be promoting Channel 20 on our station. So they ended up paying for a spot that they couldn't air except on Channel 20, and they were not happy. I was not happy, and that ended my freelance career in Washington.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a few market spots, but that was it.
Well, once it did come to an end, though, I mean, I liked what you did. We're going to go again from you, Keith. I like the fact that you did go to the internet, and even though it was like over that radio disc jockey being a jerk, I think that was a smart move because now your show is alive again with Count Gore Duvall online.
Well, we've been doing this for 22 years. I mean, think about that. That's over 1,000 programs.
Yeah.
I travel a lot. I love traveling. And every Saturday night, I take the web program and no matter where I am, and I put it up at a specific time, I put it up on the server and it goes live for a week. Okay. This program has been put up from 6 different continents. So
that's amazing.
It's so cool. You know, it's like I think we're in the world, and it just goes onto a server, and then the world can see it. So I mean, how can you not love it? I mean, this is people laughed at me in '99 and 2000. Another horror host was saying, "Well, yeah, well, we're on cable access. Okay, that's good. Or we're on this local low power TV station and all that. Well, that's good. I'm glad for you. I'm on the world." and I kept saying, trust me, in 10 years, most of the entertainment will be on the internet. I was wrong. It took 20.
Yeah, we've been talking about that on our show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I don't know where it's going from here. I mean, I've got a Roku channel now. I'm working on getting the Fire channel.
Wait, what's your channel on Roku?
Count Gore Duvall Presents.
Okay, I'm absolutely going to, because that's my Roku TV right there.
It's a curated channel. Matter of fact, tomorrow, September 1st, the new goes out because we have 4 feature films hosted, 4 celebrity interviews, and 2 hosted short films. So I've got everything that I wanted. It's curated, so you don't. One of the things I have a problem with a lot of the sites is, I was just going through Roku this morning, is you have all these sites that are horror movies, horror this, horror that, and they've got 200 really bad public domain films. And it takes you an hour to go through them to find out if there's anything you want to watch. So I decided I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to curate it. Here, just pretend every Saturday night you can go to my channel. It's free. There's no commercials. You can go there and you can watch one of these 4 movies, just like you would if it was on television. And now you can put it on your TV. You can put it on your 100-inch OLED television that you paid $10,000 for.
And I, we kind of touch on that too, because Keith and I are notorious critics of bad writing and on television. And I would consider myself a very malicious person when I don't like a writer. And there's one writer in particular we go after. Right? In fact, I had to turn down a job because I was supposed to work on a TV show that would involve a certain producer that I don't like. I think he's a garbage producer. And Keith and I make fun of him all the time because he just puts out crap. And we're like, how are you even, did you figure out how to breathe, or is somebody helping you? You are really dumb. And that's our connection. Plus, I make comic books, and it's like I would love to have you write a forward to one of mine, but you would like look at the comic book and you're like, this is like military and they're killing people. I don't know what to write.
Hey,
The only thing I think you would have enjoyed writing it forward to is
monsters kill people all the time, you know.
yeah. Well, I did Iron Sky, the graphic novel for the movie,
Oh,
and
that movie was so disappointing.
yeah, because the comic is really good.
Oh, the teaser trailer was perfect. I mean, it was wonderful.
No, wait, which one? The first movie or the second one?
The first Iron Sky. It was just the trailer was just perfect, and I can't wait for this to come out. And then they did the really bad takeoff on Sarah Palin. And I went,
Oh
ah.
Actually, I'm friends with that lady, the actress. I worked on the, it's funny. The forward to the book was written by Miko Ratalatui, and he's it's a mouthful. And Miko, I sometimes I don't think he likes me, but because when he wrote the forward, I enjoyed it because he would say because he talked a lot like Andre, another friend of ours, Keats and mine, and he would say in the forward, well, we were going to make this movie. It was really good, and then this guy from America, Gary, just inserts himself into the situation. And I did. I walked in and I went, the cheapest way to promote a film? Word of mouth. You know what the second cheapest way? Make a comic book. And they're like, who are you? Why are you talking to us? I said, I'm one of the foremost best military artists working for IDW, and I'm telling you, you need a comic book to promote your movie. And it worked. We did the comic book. I got the gig. I didn't get paid for it like I was supposed to, but I don't care. That's the film business. There's always somebody not getting paid.
Yeah.
But the movie got made, and I had a big part in getting that movie Iron Sky made. But the fact is yes, the comic book is better than the film.
Well, I'm a big fan of the juvenile novel Rocket Ship Galileo by Robert
Heinlein.
Yeah.
Yes. And where this kid and this guy build an atomic powered rocket ship, go to the moon and find the Nazis. I thought this was great. And when I saw Iron Sky, it just brought back all these memories of this wonderful.
How good it could have been.
And if they had just stuck to a serious invasion film instead of bringing in all this crap on Earth.
Well, you would have loved what the original comic was supposed to be. When I wrote the outline for it, I wrote this outline that showed that the Nazis were Roswell. They were all these famous UFO incidents. They were the cause of the cattle mutilations, but not for what you think. They kept trying to use this equipment to get these cows up into the ship. I wrote the whole thing out. It ended up in one of the comics where they would try to pull these cows up and then the cow would get dragged to death. And I wrote all this stuff up at this, every time, like the Betty and Barney Hill, actually, they were just kidnapped by Nazis, not aliens. And the Nazis were bumbling idiots and they couldn't get anything right. And I wrote all these ideas out and they used one of them. And I'm telling you now, we'd still be doing the comic book if they had used my ideas because they were so freaking funny and just off the wall. And every artist that I work with that's read it, it's like, you should have done more. No, yeah. But I'm wacky. I've got a wacky sense of humor. And it shows up in some of my writing. Like we've got a comic book that Richard Bonk and I are doing from Marvel Comics. Really good friend of mine. I'm just a writer, not the artist this time. He's just such a better comic book artist. And there's an entire scene that involves a medic trying to pull a 12-inch fang out of a guy's arm after they battle mutant, not baboons, what are they called? Mandrills. And in order to distract this guy as he's pulling this fang out, he starts telling him a story about a kitten attacking a guy's penis. And so I sent the script, before we drew it, I sent the script to Dale Dye, the guy behind Saving Private Ryan, Bandit Brothers, senior military advisor for a lot of Oscar-winning films. And I work for him. He's one of my bosses, him and his wife, Julia. And whenever I write a script with military stuff, I send it to him. And she said he blew juice out his nose when he read that scene. But it wasn't the scene that made him blow the juice. What made him laugh so hard was when Julia says, "You know, that story is a true story and happened to Gary when he was in the Army." And he blew juice out his nose. And she loves that, and a lot of people enjoy that I throw so much real life into my comics. And I'm going to put you in one of my comics, Dick. Or I should do a comic about Count Gore Duvall and work with you.
Be careful about that. We need to talk about that. I
would work with you.
Okay.
I would work directly.
Back around 2000, I would say, a friend of mine who owns a comic store in Aurora, Illinois, says, "Hey, the new Fantastic Four came out and you're in it."
What?
He goes, "Yeah." And so I said, "I'll buy a copy. I'll send you the money. Send me the copy." He sends it to me, and sure enough, what's his name? The guy who runs the Richards.
Reed Richards.
Reed Richards.
Yeah.
He's reliving his childhood, and there he is in front of the television set watching Count Gore Duvall on television. And I didn't like the art of myself. That's okay, but and it was like a couple pages. It's Count Gore Duvall.
Wow.
And I'm going.
Okay, I got to go back and get this.
I'm going back and going. This is a trademark character. No one ever talked to me about this. So I contacted a trademark attorney, and he goes, "Ooh."
Oh yeah, Marvel Comics, they got money.
And then he says, on the other hand, forget it. I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, look, what'll happen is they are going to tie you up so long and so have you spend so much money that no matter what you get from them ain't going to be enough." He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, I would like to have them acknowledge the fact that, one, it is my character." And he said, "You're not going to get any money." And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right. But I do want the recognition, character recognition, the acknowledgement of the trademark, and my URL in the comic."
That's, yeah.
And I never heard from them. But about 6 months later, I was going through a comic store, and I saw the comic. I go open it up, and there it was, the acknowledgement in the back. So I go, okay.
There you go. So they did. Okay, good.
But
we got to find out what issue this is, Keith. We need to get that comic book.
Oh yeah.
But no, if I did something, I would actually be working directly with you. It would be something that you and I would have to have a talk about. But I would love to do a comic with you about Count Gore Duvall, or even just a biographical story of you becoming Count Gore Duvall. Whatever you would want to do.
we could do the movie script that I wrote called Creature Feature and turn it into a comic.
Oh hell yeah! Consider this a handshake right through the screen. Work with the guy that inspired me. I mean, I look at it this way. It's like only one person that ever really inspired me, I never got to meet and talk to, and that's Frank Frazetta. And he died before I could. I got to know, you know who Drew Struzan is, the famous Star Wars artist, right?
No.
He did the Indiana Jones and Star Wars movie posters.
Ah, okay.
And he did the Alice Cooper's Greatest Hits. And I hated Alice Cooper. I hated him. He terrified me because of that damn movie that came out in what was it, 70? Welcome to My Nightmare. I wanted nothing to do with that guy. But he did put out this Greatest Hits album that had the most amazing artwork on it. And I bought the album just for the artwork. And little did I know that this would be the guy that would be best known for Indiana Jones and Star Wars later, is Drew Struzan. And now I'm close friends with him and his wife and his family, and I'm so inspired by him, you know, as an artist. He had the biggest impact on me as an artist. Only one close to him is Al Williamson, who also passed away before I got to know him.
Well, you know, we all have our heroes from our life.
Yeah, who are yours? Because what inspired you? What creature feature guy did you watch?
I was going to get to that. And it's going to be the acknowledgement that I really am more of a sci-fi person than a horror person. I did watch Shock Theater in Chicago when I was growing up with Marvin.
WGN?
Yeah, no, WBKB, Channel 7.
Okay.
He was on for 2.5 years. He was a beatnik, had these Coke bottle glasses, and he had this supposedly beautiful wife called Dear, except he never saw her face. She had a great body, fabulous hair, but you never saw her face, which was always kind of an intriguing thing. But as a kid, I grew up, I watched a lot of space opera. And one of my shows was Tom Corbett's Space Cadet. And
I know the show.
A number of years ago, a friend of mine says, hey, they're doing, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. The guy who played Tom Corbett and his sidekick are going to be at this convention. Would you like to go? And I said, sure. Because I want to meet the guy who I spent countless Saturday mornings watching. And I was fortunate because not only did I get to meet him, I got an interview with his sidekick. His last name was Merlin. And a couple weeks later, Tom Corbett died.
Oh man!
I got to meet him and listen to him and be in his glow for about an hour before he died. Yeah.
Wow! And there's
Tom Corbett's Space Kid, yeah.
And see if we can find that gentleman's name. Frankie Thomas.
Frankie Thomas, yes. And who is Roger? Back it up.
Jan? Did you say Roger?
Yeah, Jan Merlin. Yeah.
Yeah, Jan Merlin.
I got to meet him. I don't know that he just recently passed or he was not doing well.
Yeah, he just died in 2019.
Yeah. So,
Bless him.
I got to meet two of the three guys from Tom Corbett. Of course, I got to meet Corey before he died, but the person I wanted to meet most of all was Zachary.
The original Zachary, right?
And I don't get up to. I've only been up to New York twice in my life, and he's a New York person. And he only did the only convention he does is Chiller, or did was Chiller, and I've never been up to Chiller. So we were sitting around with Carlos Borloff, myself, and Halloween Jack. Three of us were at the convention. We were talking about who we'd like to meet, and it came up Zachary. So we just decided, yeah, let's go see him.
What year was this?
We were still back in, I was still living in Virginia.
Sometime in the 80s?
10 years ago. 10 years ago. It was, look, find out what year he died. It was the same year he died. So we got in contact with a good friend of his who was a fan, who actually has a lot of his props in his basement. And John Zachary agreed to meet with us. He didn't have us at his apartment. We had to go meet at this friend's place, and that was okay because that's where the props were. Wonderful gentleman, lovely person. He was very generous. Each of us got individual interviews with him. Later that year, he died. And so it was like, get snuck in there. So what I've learned is, if there's someone you want to meet that was important in your life, or you're curious about, do it while they're still alive, because you never know when they're gonna pass. Fortunately, he had a long life.
He died in 2016.
Yeah, Yeah, so it's 26. So yeah, and but a lot of folks don't have long lives, so it's like catch it while it's hot. So
Oh,
Wow.
there he is on the cover of Famous Monsters of Filmland.
yeah, I have to admit, I was kind of always jealous of him. But so first of all, he was the last survivor of the '57 gold rush of horror hosts, the Shock Package. He was
Right.
he was the last surviving horror host from that group. Uh, and but because he was out of New York, he got to be at Famous Monsters. He got lots of famous people on his show because he's in New York, where all the actors are and the actresses are, and
And of course, in New York, they have a larger viewership.
and the fact is, like I had the Penthouse Pets because they would come to Washington, but a lot of folks didn't send their people on the circuits through Washington. The few of the theater folks who would do the Kennedy Center and Water Theater and those, they were not in dealing with what I was dealing with, so we didn't get them to come on the show. But yeah, but I'll tell you the story. You talk about heroes. The one hero of my life was not Tom Corbett. It was the Lone Ranger.
Oh,
I mean, the guy was just. You want to talk about stand-up moral person?
I remember reading all the stories about him years later.
I only shoot to wound, and we will turn him over to the sheriff so that justice may be served with a proper trial. I mean, it was like you watch it now and you go, yeah, boy, maybe reflected the top. But anyway, the bottom line was I was a big Lone Ranger fan.
Clayton Moore.
Clayton Moore. I mean, let's face it. The 50s were westerns.
Mhm.
Every show was a western. Surprised Perry Mason didn't wear a Stetson.
Well, I got to tell you, Della.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were going out to the opening of Disneyland, like I said, and we're driving out there, and we always stayed in motels. We never stayed in hotels. My mother did not like the idea of being in a building that had only one exit or two exits.
Interesting. Yeah.
She wanted to have out that door, you're in the parking lot. If something happens, you're out.
Was this a fear of fire or?
Whatever. I never
That's
asked.
interesting.
So, but we stopped in this little town in Utah, and for no reason that I was aware of. It was late afternoon, and we stopped at a hotel. My dad takes me into the lobby, and he says, "Have a seat." And I said, "Hey, Dad, why are we in a hotel?" He said, "You'll see in a few minutes." And I go, "What am I going to see in a few minutes?" He said, "Well, in a few minutes, through that door will come the Lone Ranger." And I go, "Yeah, sure." And my name is Clayton Moore, right?
Yank my left leg. It plays Jingle Bells.
He said, "Just wait." So I sat there maybe for 10, 15 minutes. And finally, my dad nudges me and said, "There he is." He didn't have a mask on. He wasn't wearing his blue suit. But he said, well, go up there and say hello. And I did. I walked up there and I said, "Mr. Moore, I'm a big fan." He goes, "Well, thank you, son." And we chatted a little bit, and he reached up, and that's when they had these little whirly things with the postcards in them. He grabbed a big postcard of the Grand Canyon. And he said, "Can I give you an autograph?" I go, "You certainly may." And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Richard." He wrote, "Richard Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger, 1956. I still have it. But he only wrote on half the card. The other half, he said, "I want you to take this. I want you to hold on to this. Go back where you were sitting. And in a few moments, Tonto's coming in. And you have to sign the other half." I go,
Jay Silverhill. Yeah.
"Okay." And yeah, that's him without the mask. I hardly recognized him.
Yeah, you always remind me of George Reeves.
Actually, right there, he reminds me of Bruce Campbell.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I sat down, and in comes Jay Silverheels in a tweed sport jacket, but he has the headband. And he says, I said, Mr. Silverheels, Mr. Moore said that I should get you to sign this. He said, well, I'd be delighted to. Again, perfect gentleman. And he says, what's your name? I said, it's Richard. And he puts down to Dick. First time anyone's ever called me Dick. And signed it. And I still have it. And it's that is my, I don't have very many autographs, but that's the one that is treasured. I mean,
Oh, I feel you on that. I had one of my treasures stolen. It was Batman Swamp Thing, 1972. It was the first comic I ever bought with my own money. And Bernie Wrightson, I got to meet him before he passed away and become friends with him. And he signed the book for me. And then somebody stole it. And I'm like, really? I carried this thing for 40 years, and then you steal it after he signs it. And it was signed to me, so you can't just sell it as an autograph. You know,
the black market he can.
yeah, friggin' druggies.
On the show on Channel 20, I still have a copy. I have a big book, which, hold on a second. The Treasury of Great Recipes by Vincent and Mary Price.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
This was the big book that I always use. You know, I'd be standing there, wow, look at this. Of course,
He was a chef right there.
Yep.
So my mother got me this book from Vincent Price. He was on tour promoting this book. My mother was working for Sears in downtown Chicago and knew that I liked Vincent Price and his movies and got the book for me. It wasn't autographed, but it was, you know.
Wow.
So I'm using this book. 1987 rolls around. We're doing our last recording of Creature Feature. We know this is it. This is going to be the last one. We're all gone. I take it and I put it back in the table where I kept it, in the prop table. And then I said, you know, a day or two later, I said, I should probably get some of my props and stuff and take them with me. Someone ripped the book off.
Oh my God. Oh,
And it had to be an inside job. It had to be
my God. Yeah, you get some.
I said, I'm going to make it simple.
Yeah, I can't remember the first time I learned that he was a cook. If it was on, I think it was on Dinah Shore. I can't remember as a kid watching, and like, he cooks.
Oh yeah.
And I think that it really played a huge part in me becoming a cook and being interested in cooking. It's because of his price.
For me, it was simple because my dad was a cook in our family because of my parents' work schedule. So he did a lot of the cooking in my more formative years. And I learned from him. And when I went to college, I got an apartment off campus, and I soon learned that the quickest way to a girl's anything is through her stomach. So I went over for dinner on that side. But so I offered I said, if that shows up back in the table, I will put an envelope with a certain amount of money in it to purchase it back. But no one ever came up with the money.
Oh man.
So I went on when the internet came around and we started the web program. I got this one on the internet. It's all the binding is starting to fall apart. But what's interesting about this one, it's a used one, and in the back of this is a place for guests to sign that they were visiting whoever owned this book and whatever how they liked it. This is from 1981, 82, and one of these is signed by Troy Donahue.
Oh
wow.
Yeah.
So somebody in the Hollywood scene, I can't read some of these, but I would assume that someone in Hollywood had this one. But when I saw Troy Donahue, I go, okay.
Troy Donahue.
Seven.
Leave it to Beaver. Right?
Donahue, Surfside 6.
Yeah.
Surfside 6. Which
Surfside 6.
I got to go on in 1965. We were in Miami, and they were getting it was $2 you could go on the Surfside 6 boat.
Wow. Wow.
Oh man, now I remember this guy with his hair. I'll pull it up here.
Yeah.
Look at that hair. Hell of a pompadour right there.
Yeah. I always hated it like that.
The copy of Vincent's book that I saw was this copy.
Okay.
And I was just fascinated with that he became a cook, and it got me fascinated with cooking. That plus I also mocked my dad's cooking once, and he told me, "That's it, you son of a bitch. I'm not cooking another meal for you."
Well, you know what's funny about this one is the fact that they have menus from various famous restaurants.
Oh wow.
Then you look at, this is a French restaurant, and you look at the prices, and here would be a this is terrible because I'm terrible on French. Let me look at it in America, something in English. But you look at the prices. You're like, shrimp cocktail, $3.
Back in the day.
I'm going, oh yeah.
Oh wait, that's the 70s. $3 is a lot.
This book was actually from the 50s. If I'm not mistaken, it's copyrighted in this one. This is right before he divorced his wife.
Mm.
They don't have a copyright date on it. They have copyright, but no date. Oh yeah, no, it's 65. 65.
1965, wow. Man. I was a year old, and you weren't even born yet, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You were just a glint, a dirty look in your daddy's eye.
Among other things.
Oh, it's kind of funny. I said it was a French restaurant. It was a French menu at an English restaurant.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of funny. There's one picture of him though. He's in Dodger Stadium ordering a hot dog. He said you can't be snobby about food.
Nope, you can't. And I got to tell you, there's nothing better than an all beef hot dog.
The ballpark.
Yep.
And your team's winning.
And because just as a personal note, because I grew up cooking. My first jobs were cooking in restaurants, and I went to chef school in Fredericksburg at La Petite Auberge, and quit for. Have you eaten there?
No.
Oh.
I say I don't speak French. That's right.
La Petite Auberge. And I was told by Steve Martin that you're not saying French correctly unless you sound like you're choking to death. But I really wanted to be a chef, and it is true. I found some of the best dates I ever had were ones where I cooked a meal, and
we very rarely go out for food to restaurants locally. I will eat restaurant food when I'm traveling, obviously, but between my wife Susan and myself, we are both very good cooks, and why would we want to lower our standards to go to a restaurant?
Yeah, and you can make it yourself. I'm right on there with you. Well, we're almost at 2 hours. This is a really good one.
I'm noticing that, and I'm thinking, considering I thought this was going to happen tomorrow.
But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. But I would love to have you back again, especially if you're promoting something. And of course, I want to talk to you about this comic idea.
Oh, promoting something. I do have to promote something.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to air before September 19th.
It'll air pretty quickly. It'll be within 2 weeks.
September 19th. I have the privilege and honor of showing and hosting for the first time on the internet a movie called The Dead Matter. This was filmed 10 years ago by Ed Douglas, who's half of Midnight Syndicate. The movie was also scored by Midnight Syndicate. It stars
I've got it right here. I'll drag it over.
anyway, I have Dick Dyszel has a small role in it. I play I don't look like a vampire, but I play the
Is this the right one?
teacher. Yeah, that's it. And
Available on Prime.
Tony, Tom Savini's in it.
Wow.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. There you go. And it's not a bad film. It was actually shot on Super 16 film, and it looks really good. I was involved with. I've known Ed Douglas now since '99, and great guy. And like he said, he mentioned it. We're talking, and he says, you want to show it, go ahead, and I did. And I'm going to. So it's a big deal. This has never been outside of DVD and the one very short theatrical release. So I'm excited about this, and it's a decent film. So there you go. September 19th. It goes up for 2 weeks on Creature Feature, the weekly web program at countgore.com. So there you go.
I'll make sure to, with the link, I'll mention that. But we want to thank you for being on the show, Dick. It's a real honor to have you. Love to have you on as the Count or anything, because, promoting your show. And most of all, if you ever want to have us on your show, I don't know if you'd want to or why.
Or how?
We're virtual. We're always virtual.
I know. I'm trying to get. The fact that I've been on the internet for 22 years, I'm still getting used to the virtual stuff.
It's how I live. I was designed for this pandemic because I'm a social introvert, and it's like I don't want people around me. It's great.
Well, my biggest problem with the Count going on virtual is the fact that the Count should be in his dungeon.
Yes.
The studio is on the other side of that wall, but the other side of that wall, it's 95 degrees.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's when I do put the air conditioning on in there, the lowest I can get it during the summertime is about 85. And I'm good for about 20 minutes.
You'll be schwitzing all over.
Well, it's a water-based makeup.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And dealing with long sleeve shirt, vest, wool tails, polyester, cape, even at 85 degrees, doesn't take long for it to just start going melt.
Have you ever thought about using green screen?
Yes, I've got a 22-foot wide green screen in there, but it's in there.
It's still in there. Damned if you do and damned if you don't.
So I was doing Scares for Cares, and we did it virtual with the Count, and that was really rough because not only could I not get into the dungeon because it was so hot, but I also had a swollen eye because I had an eye infection. So I put makeup on my eyes. So I ended up with getting sunglasses, and everyone was giving me grief about sunglasses at night. What is this, the Count? You're wearing sunglasses? Don't worry, I just deal with it. I'm streaming Corey Hart. Come on, deal with it. Corey Hart.
I wear my sunglasses at night.
All right, let's wrap this up. I've got a planned dinner tonight.
Amen to that, man. Dick, thank you so much for coming on the show. Look forward to having you back on again in the future. Great stories, man. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm sure there's still a billion things we could talk about. But until the next time, that's Keith down there now in the Brady Bunch box.
And that's Gary.
Yeah. And that's the Count, Dick Dyszel. And with that, we're going to kindly ask all of you to get off our lawns.
Do you know what a vampire's favorite holiday is? Thanksgiving.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture Minefield. If you've enjoyed the show, please make sure to like, subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon for updates on our shows and channel. Also, please leave a comment, and we'd like to know what you thought of the episode, as well as letting us know if there's something you'd like us to cover in a future episode. Don't forget that you can become a member of Pop Culture Minefield now. Make sure to visit our membership page and merch store at popcultureminefield.com. You can always find Pop Culture Minefield on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Thank you.